welcome. I'm Susie Baer Collins, and I'm so pleased to kick off what I think is the very first installment of the Omaha Theater Arts Guild Video Archive Project, and have a conversation with my dear friend, Elaine Jabenis. Elaine has a varied and continually changing career. As a young woman, she was a true pioneer for women in the workplace, and she served as an inspiration to her legion of female friends and colleagues. She began her professional career in newspaper journalism in New York City, New York Times, just to drop a few names. Later branching out to broadcast journalism in both television and radio right here in Omaha. Those experiences led her to a second successful career in the fashion industry, where she served as merchandising director for the Omaha Brandeis department stores in Omaha, giving her the opportunity to travel the country and the world. Elaine is also the author of a nonfiction fashion merchandising textbook, who knew, as well as her first published novel. The things I've read about Elaine's professional achievements in order to prepare for this interview have made my head swim. But many of us know Elaine, first and foremost, as one of the great treasures of the Omaha theater community. And that's what we're here to talk to her about today. It is now April 22nd, 2017. Hi, Elaine.
Hi, darling.
How are you?
I'm good.
I'm so glad to see you. We get to talk to each other. You know, our dear friend, Bill Hudson, never goes to have lunch or make a conversation with a friend without bringing a list of questions. And I thought that was a wonderful idea. And you always forget something you really wanted to ask somebody. So please forgive me for referring to my little piece of paper here.
Oh,
but
no problem.
Let's start at the beginning. Tell us where you were born.
Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah.
And you're going to ask me what year?
No, I am not. You've taught me better than that. Would you describe yourself as a little girl, as a child, as a teenager? Because the Elaine Jabenis I know is so confident and interesting and humble and curious, and I wanted to know how all that started.
All that?
Yeah, that's the little bit of it. What were you like as a kid?
Well, as a kid, as a little girl, I just sort of had an appetite for make-believe.
Oh.
And if I see a movie, I would come home and imitate the actor or actress. And I remember seeing Janet Gaynor.
Yeah.
And she was coming down a staircase singing, "You are just too adorable," and I would sing that.
Because you must have been just too adorable.
That's
doing
what
that.
I tried to tell myself. But anyway, then as a teenager, I would like to write, so I would write late at night when my mother would say, "Lights out, let's go to bed. You got to go to school early tomorrow morning." I had this, yellow legal size pads, and I would write with a pencil, stories, and then I would stick them under my pillow because I didn't think they were worth, anybody reading them or whatever. But I sure loved doing it.
So that was kind of your interior life.
Yes.
I think I read somewhere that you considered yourself kind of shy.
I was very shy.
Really?
I was so shy that when I was in high school, Central High, I was a member of Central High Players.
Oh.
Aha. But I never was on a stage at Central.
Oh,
because
really?
I never auditioned for any of the shows. And so consequently, I worked makeup and costumes and stuff like that backstage. That's all I ever did at Central.
Did you aspire to do that? Did you just aspire to go on stage at the time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was scared.
Yeah.
I didn't think that I'd listen to, to all the other kids auditioning, and they sounded wonderful to me, and I didn't think I could meet their excellence. So I never did. I never auditioned. But since I was a member of the group, they gave me little things to do backstage.
I can kind of relate to that. I had a kind of a similar time in my childhood where I was too scared to do what I really wanted. Did you have brothers and sisters? I'm sorry, I don't know that.
I have one brother and one sister.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Where do you fall? In the middle?
I'm at the top.
Oh, you're the oldest.
I'm the old one.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
So you were backstage at Central High School. How did you first break into the theater? What was your first opportunity to be on stage?
Oh gosh, you aren't going to believe this. But we lived, the old Playhouse was at 49th and Davenport.
Right.
Right across the street from the, what was the name of the castle?
Joslyn Castle?
Joslyn Castle, right.
Right.
Anyway, that I lived in a duplex with my husband and my baby.
So you were a grown person with kids?
I was a grown person with kids, yes. And one day I said, they're having auditions across the street, and I wonder what an audition looks like. Never been to one. And I said, I'd just kind of like to see what's doing. He says, well, go ahead and go. The kids are in bed. You go ahead and go. It'll be fun, So I did. And Kendrick Wilson was the director at that time. And they were doing Father of the Bride. That's what they planned. And so I sat kind of in the back because I just wanted to listen. But Kendrick assumed that anybody that was sitting there came in for a purpose.
Right.
So he came to me and he handed me the book and he says, turn to page 5. And I said, okay. and then he says, well, start reading. And I said, which character? He says, there's only one female on the page. And it was the bride. So I read the line, and I'm sure I stuttered and sounded awful. So he took the book away from me and went over to other people. And later he came back to me again and told me to turn to page 17, and he would want me to do a scene that was, it had more character involved. And I did it. And I said, what role is this? He says, it's the bride. I said, okay. So I read it, and then took the book away from me again. But before the evening was over, he said, I want you to stay. I stayed. The end of that is, I got the part. Now, the sad thing is that I had never been on a stage as a performer in my life.
You seem to have a history of just walking in and skipping the part where you were supposed to prepare for what you were about to do and just doing it.
It's funny that that's true.
I mean, I'm thinking, well, maybe we'll tell it later, the story about you getting a job at the New York Times.
That's right.
You went in to get out of the rain, right?
Yeah, right.
So Father of the Bride
Yeah.
was a film that we all know, or some of us know, with Spencer Tracy and Elizabeth Taylor. So
Right.
This is the Elizabeth Taylor role, the lead role. And we have to remember that Elaine, tell me if I'm wrong, but she had 2 kids at home. Well, the youngest was 6 weeks.
That's right.
You went and got the lead part at the Omaha Playhouse with the 6-week-old baby.
Exactly. Right. And I'll tell you, I at that time, I didn't know what stage right or stage left was. I knew nothing.
Wow.
And he was a very patient man. I don't know how he put up with me at all. And just between me, I don't want anybody else to hear this, but I don't think I was very good.
I find that hard to believe.
Well, I didn't think I was very good. I did get away with it. I don't know how, but I did. But I really got bitten. Mm-hmm. Oh, did I love that.
Were there people in the show that you became attached to, that you maybe thought you might learn something from, or that maybe kind of helped you other than the director, or can you remember that?
The man that played the father of the bride
Yeah.
was the same age as I was, but he with graying his hair and makeup and everything, he was outstanding. He was wonderful. It was unbelievable, and I had so much fun. I didn't take it all too seriously. Because it was kind of fun. It was a comedy, and I was able to do that to some degree, but it was a good training place for me. But I got bitten, Susie.
Yeah.
Bad.
So your husband, Mace, was kind of waiting for you, thinking you'd be back in, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes.
Right, right.
You come home, and maybe that day or that night or the next day, you find out you got the part. How did that go over?
He said, "The bride?" I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Are you going to do that?" I said, "Is it okay with you?" He says, "Yeah, the kids will be asleep all the time. I mean at night, you know, because I told them the rehearsals would be mostly in the evening or on Sunday or whatever." And he says, "Sure, go ahead and do it."
Wow.
So he didn't know what kind of doors he was opening up.
No.
Poor guy. But anyway, it that's what we did.
Well, in the years I knew Mace, I don't remember anybody more supportive or proud of you. I mean, that was a wonderful relationship from where I sat.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
He was extremely supportive and very kind. And he would learn how to cook.
Oh, were you a
Yeah.
cook?
Me?
Yeah, just checking.
Do I have to answer
No,
that?
going on. So, would you consider that your first break then? I mean, some people kind of break into the theater with a small role or two, and then they get the lead. You kind of
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that I got a lead right away. That didn't mean that I always had leads, but
Right.
But you know that was a good experience for me. It really was.
right. Would you talk about some of your favorite roles?
Yes, that I would love to do because they contributed so much to my life. I think maybe my number one favorite one was Driving Miss Daisy, which I played with
John Beasley.
Beasley.
Yeah.
John Beasley being a real pro, and I found right from the outset, Susie, that if you're with really outstanding actors, it brings you up to that level because you are relating to that kind of quality of performance. And I learned so much from John Beasley.
And you performed that right here on the Playhouse main stage
right
where we're
here
sitting.
on the main stage, right. Then the next one that I really loved.
Okay, but let's talk a little bit more about that.
Oh,
Because,
oh,
I mean,
okay.
that was a two-person, well, no, it wasn't exactly a two-person play, right?
But three.
There were three of you, the
Yeah.
son and
The
maybe
son
his
and-
wife.
and-
yeah. But
the
that was a
driver.
lot of stuff to do. And
It
I
was.
remember the set was like these wonderful flowers. What were they? Magnolias. They were sort of like steel magnolias.
Right,
It was
right.
kind of a little bit not realistic set. So it was kind of unusual and it was fascinating. Yeah. Did that...
I know I had a lot of changes and a lot of hair changes too because I got older, you know.
Right, right.
And it was tremendous challenge, but it had to be my favorite because
Yeah.
there was so many ups and downs. You know, she was funny,
Yeah.
and then she was tragic, and there was the opportunity to go that whole spectrum.
Yeah, live that woman's
It
life.
was wonderful. Yes, yes.
Yeah, how do you prepare to know you're going to, you know, like I've done this a little bit too, and you sit there and think, oh, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. I have to do that part starting at 7:30 tonight, you know, and it's in your brain all day long. Does that, you know, you talked about how much fun it was to do Father of the Bride because you didn't know anything and everything was just a lark.
Right.
And then the more you do, the more you get, you know what can go wrong or you know maybe what expectations are.
Exactly.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, I sure will. There's terror involved, tremendous terror. I would during the day before I went to the theater, I went over all of my lines and played all the moves. I rehearsed. There was no such thing as coming home, go to sleep, do what I had to do, and then come back and do the show.
Right.
I did the show all day long, every day of a run. I mean, that was my way of working. I'm not know whether all actors do that or not.
I don't either.
But I had to do that.
Because you're not comfortable not doing that.
No.
Because if you prepare that much, then when it's time to be in the moment on the stage, you've got, I don't know, you've just got the play in you so strongly that
Yes.
that you can just react to what's happening.
I know.
That's what we hope to do anyway.
Exactly. And some people have asked me about doing a play. She said, "Oh, I wouldn't. I'd love to do that, but I'd just be terrified." I said, "I got news for you. There isn't a night that I would come to perform that I didn't stand in the wings and say to myself, what in the hell am I doing here?"
Amen, sister.
Yeah. And the heart's pounding, you know, and I don't remember a single line, and I'm gonna just destroy myself and the show and the whole thing. I walk out there and wow, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm there.
So you're there. Did
Right.
you ever forget a line on stage?
If I did, I rewrote it.
Good. So I think my theater teacher would have called that covering.
You bet.
Yeah, right. Don't make it look like it was a mistake.
Yes, I know. Someone
Pick
once.
up the phone and say it's for you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did once.
Oh, really?
Yes, it did. It happened to me. Some guy, he did a little drinking, I think.
Did that happen on the stage sometimes?
Yes, it did, ma'am. And I remembered that particular line because that's what led me to that. He said, I forgot how it started, but he said, "There's a call for you." And I knew there was no call in the show. And so I think I went to the call. Oh, yes, he did. He had rigged a ring with the stage manager.
As a joke.
At the show, right. Oh. And he said, "It's for you." I said, "How do you know it's for you?" Because he says, "I know you. Someone had called, wanted to get in touch with you." So I thought, I can't stand here in the middle of the stage and the theater filled with people and not do something. So I went to the phone and picked it up. And I said, "Yes." I said, "Okay." And I turned to him. I said, "It's for you."
Serves him right.
Damn right.
Wow.
And don't ask me what he did after that because I cannot remember. But
Right.
I know that
I think he was conveniently killed.
Did I get him? I tell you.
So most actors that I know do better with a good director.
Oh, no question.
Yeah.
No question.
Talk about some of your favorite directors. Who do you like to work with, and why do you like to work with them? Certainly, I want to include Charles.
Oh, definitely.
Charles Jones.
Charles Jones, right. Charles Jones he directed Driving Miss Daisy.
Yes.
And he would be so kind, and he had a southern accent, and he was very soft-spoken, and he didn't scream at you like Kendrick Wilson used to do.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear. Yes, and once when we were in rehearsal, he said, "Oh, Elaine, that was so wonderful." He says, "You know what? Why don't we try this approach?" In other words, it was okay, but he had a little bit of suggestion to make it better, which was good, which was really good. But that was his way of directing without, insulting you or
Right. Shaming people.
putting terror in your heart. No way. He always felt he gave you strength and he gave you courage, and that was a fine director.
He had a lot of love for actors, too, I
Yes,
think.
he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, you could tell he loved what he did, and he wanted you there, and he wanted you to succeed.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
talk of then, you mentioned Kendrick Wilson,
Yes.
right? So he directed Father of the Bride,
He
and he
did.
was a big help to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
He taught me a lot.
Yeah.
He really did.
Just any other directors? I know that you did a really marvelous play at Snap Productions, Six Dance
Yes.
Lessons in 6 weeks.
And I've forgotten his name. What was the director's name? Oh my goodness, how awful of me to forget that. And I loved working with
Billy
and-
Bohannon? No.
Yes.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, good.
And he was he died certainly after that. He had cancer, and he went through this whole thing
Yeah.
while he was going to the hospital all the time, having blood transfusions.
Oh, my
It was
goodness.
just unbelievable. But that man was there for you all the way.
Really joyful man.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, made the best bread pudding I've ever had.
And you wanted to succeed for him because you just was just too wonderful.
He wanted you to succeed.
He did. He really did. But I did have such a wonderful time. There were two actors, and Michael Simpson,
Right.
and I did it. And
You changed some clothes in that show, too.
what's that?
You had a lot of costume changes in that show.
Oh yeah, wonderful costume changes.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful experience because there was so much comedy.
Yeah.
And so much pathos, and
Yeah.
it was just so much variety. And as a two-actor show, as you know, your energy level has to be up there all the time because you're on all the time and whatever. And it was all really very funny. That was the year that we won. Is it okay for me to mention this?
Probably not, but go ahead.
Well, we won just about everything in the book.
You sure did.
I mean,
No,
we
I think
really,
you get to mention
we really
that.
did. Best actor, best actress, best costumes. I forgot what else, but we just won best director. Yeah, we just really did, and it was wonderful. And I chose at that time, Susie, to decide that was I'm going to quit while I'm ahead.
Oh, that was your last show.
Because I was 84 years old when I did the show.
Yeah.
And I said, I've done enough. And that was the last show I did. Yes.
Well, you brought up the awards, and, you know, here in Omaha, we don't necessarily pay our actors all the time what they're worth to perform, but we take our awards very seriously here. You
Yes.
know, here at the Playhouse and the TAG awards that are given annually. What do you think? What do those mean to you? What is?
The awards,
Yeah.
I think they're wonderful. A wonderful way, because most of the actors are there gratis. They get no compensation whatsoever other than the joy of doing it and the education probably, but whatever it is, it's a giving on their part.
Yeah.
A very big giving. And they are, when you tell them you did a wonderful job, we appreciate what you did. It's lovely.
It is.
It's a lovely thing to do. It really is.
Being recognized by your peers, by other
Yes,
people
absolutely.
in the theater.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you're working with all these people in a cast, you become very close.
Really?
So in most cases, in my case, you're so dependent upon each other, and you get to be supportive of each other. And I have loved when I would walk off and somebody would say, "Oh, Elaine, that was great."
Yeah.
Or so I learned to do that too.
Right.
Because
Encourage.
I encourage them. Yes. I can hardly wait for your scene tonight because I love what you did. Yes.
It's like a family.
It definitely is.
Because
like
you know you're grieving something when it's over.
That's right. And we always say we're going to see each other, and you really don't.
Yeah.
Because you don't have time.
Right.
You know, because you have jobs, you have family, you're in another show, but
You have that
You have
between you
that.
forever. Yeah, that's true. So you talked about the people that you perform with. Who were some of your, you mentioned John Beasley in Driving Miss Daisy. Who were some of your other favorite, I'm going to say, co-stars or people that you got to be on stage with that you enjoyed?
without hesitancy, I would say Bill Hudson in The Lion in Winter.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite shows. And Bill is probably the finest actor that ever walked across the stage.
Yeah.
I've seen him do things in which he was a totally different character other than just the man you see. Once he played a woman, and once it was in Tuesdays with
Maury?
With Maury. I forgot it was him. He was so different. And I thought, how do you do that? Have you ever felt that way?
Yes.
About you
About
being
that
an
very
actor,
same person.
And you see the actor, and you say, how do they do that?
I know.
You would think you would know, but you don't.
No.
No.
But you were Eleanor of Aquitaine, and he was,
Yes.
yeah, you were,
He was the king.
He was
yes,
king,
Yes,
yeah.
right.
yeah.
Yes.
And there was some fighting going on in that.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, it's a great script, isn't it?
Oh, a great script.
You know, we have such a privilege of get to say such empowering words by some of these authors. I think that's a really good example of a great play. Driving Miss
Yes.
Daisy is a really good example of a great play. And you've certainly done your share of comedies too.
Oh, yes, I know.
Social Security was
Yes.
maybe your most recent comedy that you
Yes.
did on the main stage here at the Playhouse.
Yes.
Just a really delightful, fun show.
That
And
was a very fun show.
when I was getting ready to talk to you, there's a very helpful book out there if you're kind of a Playhouse nut and you want to find out what year something happened. You can refer to Warren Frankie's History of the Playhouse, which
Right,
is, I was
right.
kind of spending some time with that. And
Yeah.
he was talking about the fact that during the time before there was the Howard Drew Theater, there was the Studio Theater downstairs.
Right.
It's all broken up into different rooms now, and it's got a great big trap door in it. It's right under this stage. But that used to be the Studio Theater where more experimental plays were. You directed down there The World of Sholem Aleichem.
A World of Sholem Aleichem.
Aleichem, sorry.
Yes, right.
And you also appeared in several shows. One of them was No Exit.
No Exit, yes.
By Jean-Paul Sartre.
Right.
And for an Omaha Community Playhouse to be doing plays of that nature was really intriguing to me. And Warren wrote something. He was talking about a lighthearted comedy during one year, maybe in the late 50s, early 60s, and he said, you know, the show did pretty well for an audience at our Playhouse that much prefers more serious fare. And I thought, things have changed. You know, what do you want to see? We want to see musicals. We want to have a good time.
Yeah.
And there was a time when some really heavy-duty theater was being done here and highly attended. That, I don't know, I had to bring that up. I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, there's
No
been a lot of
Exit.
transition in taste of theater, too.
Yeah. How has it changed?
Well, it's more versatile, and sometimes it's done to give you a message that is suitable to the times that are existing within our lives, or to remind you of the times that have passed. So when you have a period piece, it gives you a great vision of a picture of what life was like in the 1890s or whatever, or 1900s, and they do it so skillfully that it kind of gives you a history lesson that you really weren't looking for, but happy to have had it.
Right. And
Yes.
also kind of help us see the universality of the human condition, no matter when or where
Exactly.
we're setting the play.
And theater deals with the human condition in various ways, up and down, funny, bad, good, not so good.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Yes.
Sometimes we get criticized because we put on a play that maybe has some bad goings on,
Yes.
some things that people might not approve of,
Yes.
but we aren't necessarily endorsing those things. We're saying that they just exist. Take a look at it
You
in
know,
this mirror.
Susie, when you directed me and Frank DeGeorge in Love Letters, there was one word in one of the speeches that four-letter word,
Ends with a K.
and starts with a F.
Yeah.
And you said I didn't have to say it if I didn't want to, just say something else. So during rehearsal, I said something else. But when we went into performance, I don't know what struck me, but it seemed that it needed that word. And I just blared it out with a big, strong voice, and it just brought the house down.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You might, you know. I don't think I had anything to do with it, but yeah, that's a lovely piece. That's a
Yes.
lovely piece. So sometimes things go wrong on stage, probably never when you were out there, but do you have any stories that you recall where, due to some circumstances that maybe had nothing to do with you, you had to deal with a bit of a emergency or a crisis?
Gosh, I can't think of one right
You
now.
know, that's a blessing, Elaine. I think that's a good thing. I
I
remember I
don't
played a
remember
part
it.
once with a woman, she was a little kind of crazy, and I remember thinking, well, if something goes wrong, I'm not going to be able to help. I'll just keep vacuuming. I remember thinking that.
Yeah, that would be wonderful if you had something to do. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, right. But that's one of the things that actors have fear of, that something will go wrong.
Right.
You
What do
just
you think is the biggest fear of what might go wrong? For me, I know what it is for me.
For forgetting a line
Yeah.
and going completely dead.
Right.
And just look straight out of the audience and have nothing to say and nothing to do and don't know what to do. But I've learned, just move. Just walk.
Breathe.
Just breathe.
Right.
Just something, and something will come.
Right.
I think that's when I learned to write fiction, honey.
Oh, really? Because you started making it up on the stage.
Right.
But I was surprised to hear that you started writing, in your room late at night as a child. Writing
Yeah.
started early for
Yeah,
you.
I did.
Yeah. And you have served as a playwright. You wrote the book for both Princess Diana, the musical, and From Generation to Generation.
Yes.
So what prompted that? Was that the first time you'd ever written anything for the stage?
Yes, actually, it was because Karen Javich, who wrote Generation to Generation, called me one day. I was on vacation. I was in Colorado, and she said, "I need someone to write this story. I have an idea of what I want to do, but I write all the words and music, and I'm having a little trouble putting it together. I don't know exactly how to stage this or how to give the actors, dialogue or whatever. Would you do it?" And I said, "That sounds interesting. Send me a copy of what the script, what the book is like, what the storyline is like, and what the music is." Excuse me. And then she did. So she sent me a CD of the music and whatever. And I kind of got inspired, and I thought what I would like to do. And so I told her I would try, but I'm not sure. I have never done that before, but I would love to try.
Yeah. That seems like we've heard the story before.
Yes.
Having never done anything before and just jumping in.
Yeah.
It's kind of your way to go.
Honestly, it seems like things seem to fall along the way, and I'd step on it.
Yeah. I see you as a magnet, and things just come to you because of kind of what you put out there, Elaine.
Oh, I never thought about
Yeah,
that.
well, that's
I
what I
just
get
thought
to
of
do.
it just lucky breaks.
Well, I think that's part of it
right,
too, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. But
So there's a young person maybe in your life who's really interested in the theater. Do you have any advice? Did you have formal training? It doesn't sound like you did.
Nothing.
Yeah, so these days you can't hardly get an audition in a professional theater without some significant theater training.
That's
So
right. Absolutely.
is that a good thing, or do you think there's room for someone to just sort of fall into it? We don't have those opportunities other than community theater.
I think throughout the history of theater, there have been people who really didn't have background, but had a heart for it, and yearning for it, a taste for it, an understanding of it. Perhaps was a person who sat in the audience and dreamed about being up there. When I was with the New York Times for a while, I worked for Brooks Atkinson, who was perhaps the most feared and the most admired critic of Broadway. He could open a show and kill it in 3 days. Or he could love it and it would run for 5 years. But he was feared and loved all at the same time.
And how did you serve him? What was your job in his office?
I was just an assistant in his office doing whatever he needed to be done. It was not anything really important, but it was a wonderful education for me, because I could be with this man and he would share a lot with me.
Right.
And then I shared with him that after sitting out, I would get, tickets to go to a lot of the shows at the openings when he did reviews and whatever. And he said, if you have a taste for it, go for it. If you love it, do it. But do it with all your might and all your heart, and don't pull back on anything. And so I thought, that sounds kind of glamorous, it sounds kind of neat. But I thought, oh my God, no way in the world I could do that.
Yeah, but when you came back to Omaha after New York and you started working in broadcast and you worked at WOW, and one of your kind of friends was Johnny Carson.
Yes.
And you were pretty good pals, and
Yes.
he eventually went out to Los Angeles and he encouraged you to come.
Yes, he did. He called me one day and he said, Elaine, you should come out here. There's nobody here but Betty White.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't even know who Betty White was.
That's amazing.
I had seen her once on a network show in which she was skinny and she had she must have had some surgery done. She had a very square face. And she could sing, and she talked, she did some intro stuff, I don't know exactly what, but that was the only time I'd ever seen her.
Well, you would have given her a run for her money, I think.
Well, he said you should come.
Yeah.
But what did Elaine do, who had a husband and 2 small children?
Right.
And I just wasn't about to do that.
No.
And I liked radio and television, and I thought that was fine. I didn't know what I could do out there. There I was again, not having the courage to do what I might have probably enjoyed doing. But I didn't go. The only time I went is when Johnny wasn't doing the Tonight Show, and he would get me tickets, and then I'd see him before the show, and I'd see him after the show, and we were buddies for about 20 years after he left Omaha.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yes, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I learned how to be a friend of Johnny's, and that was not to intrude on anything personal. Don't ask him questions. If he wants to tell you something, he will tell it, and he always felt safe with me.
Oh.
He didn't like people. He didn't like to do interviews for that very reason. He don't want people
to pry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, did you have any affairs? No, I'm just kidding. I just thought I couldn't pass that up. Yeah. Well, thank you. Let me ask one more question.
Okay.
Why do you? It's interesting to me because however you're kind of channeling your creativity,
right?
It's in your writing, it's in your performance, it's in your, you were so involved. I mean, I can remember one of the first times you and I had anything to do with each other was when you directed and kind of created the Woman of the Year Arthritis show, which was a combination of a fashion show and entertainment, and I remember meeting the Rizzuto sisters, now Mulberry Lane, but they were all little girls back then.
Yes, they were little girls.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then now you have this other life where you've written Georgia's Secret, which is your first novel, and I understand you're working on your memoirs.
I am.
And that's a story we'd all like to read. So what makes you want to create? What makes you want to perform? What makes you... I think you've already told me, but do you have another way, or would you just say in your own words why you found so much satisfaction in the theater?
Well, I think it's a wonderful way sometimes to be somebody else and not just be you. And I found it was... I think to be a good actress or actor, you have to believe what you're doing and become that person. And for the moments that you're on the stage or in front of a microphone or in front of a film, you just become that.
So I guess it wasn't really a joke when I said, have you had any affairs? Because you've lived so many lives on the stage.
That's true.
We have had
Yes.
that opportunity to
Yes.
step into somebody else's shoes,
Yes.
which is something we wish for all
Yes.
people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of a wonderful. See, the thing that's so delicious about being an actor is that you can make believe, you can pretend, like I did when I was a kid, and for a while, you were that person, and people, if they liked you, would let you know with their applause or whatever. And it was kind of a delicious experience. And we worked so hard for weeks rehearsing and weeks on the stage, and for 30 seconds to stand up in front of the audience for a 10-second bow. That is the reward we get. And we want it. It's amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing, as are you. Thank you, Elaine. You're going to come back and talk with us. Maybe we'll take like 5 minutes. Is that all right? And then we'll kind of reconfigure. We're going to talk to Sue Perkins in a little
Yes,
bit, and then
Sue.
we'll come back and talk with you.
Yes. And Sue was one of the lead roles of one of the shows that Karen Javits wrote, Generation to Generation.
Right.
And she was wonderful. So I'll look forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, my love.
Thank you, my darling.